comes to actually putting together a team,
Yeah.
I haven't done that
Bella,
yet.
we're going live. We're live right now.
Oh, okay.
Hello, welcome everyone to the Daily Fantasy College Football Show on Fantasy Insiders TV, sponsored by ourselves and by mostly my tireless work effort covering for David while he's in the Bahamas, just hanging out. He was communicating to us earlier on Skype, and he's like, "Oh yeah, when I heard the Larry Sanders news, I just ran upstairs from the pool." So that's the sort of adventure that David Kitchen is on while we're here just delivering content, just doing that stuff for you guys because we love you. Ben.
Must be nice.
How you doing, fella?
When I win and go to Vegas, we go into like a corner of a sports book, and they have TVs that don't work, and we're there for like 2 days. It's a little bit less than the Bahamas, like David's getting to do for like 5 days. And
that sounds. The industry has changed since you qualified for a live final.
I feel like an old guy now in the industry because just 2 years ago, that's the way things were done. They were like, just throwing it together. Now they're like big deals.
I've played daily fantasy for a really long time. Like, there's going to be a time, like, this is how you can make people remember. Like, there are people now who don't remember Daily Joust, right?
Yeah.
And then there are going to be people who don't remember Draft Street who are like daily fantasy players, or there'll be people who don't remember Star Street and stuff like that.
So like us and like Dan Bach and like some of those guys are going to be the godfathers of daily fantasy, basically, when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Right? Can we do that? Can we beat that?
Until daily fantasy like just becomes an unbeatable game like poker.
Yeah, and then we'll be nothing because we won't put in the money to do it. But anyways, all right, let's move on.
you want to talk about some college football, Ben?
I think that's a good idea. What about you, Jordan? You think you want to talk about some college football tonight?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
It's championship week.
Listen. I was letting everyone get into like the viewing window. It's not on our normal landing page. All right, fella.
Yeah, do we have people here?
I mean, we got a couple. I don't know. I can't ever really tell when we do it on here, but I just wanted to give people a chance. Who are you most excited to roster, Ben? Who is the number one player that you're excited to roster?
You'd think it would be Boykin, and that's who I started with, and that's who the cover boy is, but you know what? I have a different guy.
Hit me.
And this one's going to sneak up on some people. Dalvin Cook.
Dalvin? Okay. All right. There are a couple people who insist that he's like the most talented running back in college right now, for real.
You take that, and then you combine the fact that Carlos Williams isn't going to play. He had 26 touches last week, totaled like 170 yards against a good Florida team. A good Florida defense, anyways. He is a sneaky play in that game against Georgia Tech.
Okay. All right. What makes him so sneaky? Do you think that's going to be
I just don't think
controlled type game?
I think it could be. He's been kind of their savior. As they've struggled this whole season, it's been like the Dalvin Cook savior. He's been the guy that's pulled them out of games and helped them win, not Jameis Winston. Don't give Jameis Winston that credit.
Yo, Jameis has been really bad this year. Jordan and I and one of our buddies were looking at his stats the other day compared to last season. His touchdown to interception ratio is 21-17.
It's bad, but that's kind of inflated because he's had like 3+ interception games.
I think this is I don't think this is the real Jameis Winston. I think something between in the middle of what this year and what he did last year. I think that's the real Jameis Winston. I think a team is going to horribly overdraft him based on what he did last year.
He's just a knucklehead, man, and he's dealing with knucklehead things until he gets his. And he's going to be. You know what? I've said this before. I think he's going to be one of those guys that grows into he's going to be better prepared to deal with all the pressures that come with being an NFL quarterback. Other than, you got guys like Mariota. Well, if Mariota winds up at the Jets, is Mariota going to be able to handle playing in New York?
Good luck, fella. I mean, Mariota personality, I'm not worried about him. It's just he's going to need some development because he plays in the Coors Field of college offenses. He's going to need a lot of development.
But what about you think a Jameis could thrive? I think a Jameis could.
No, I think any rookie quarterback that goes to the Jets right now is.
Oh, well, that's a good point.
He's not going to go to the Jets. He's going to go to the Raiders.
Don't look at it that deeply, there, Maddock, please.
Oh, that's all I can do, Ben. We'll talk about the end of the show. We'll talk about our challenge at the end of the show. All right. I still think that the person I'm most excited to roster is my boy from Norman, Oklahoma, Samaj A.P. Ryan. I only had him in 25% of my cash games in the KU game because I was thinking that they'd pull the brakes up on him in the second half, right?
Nope.
That's not what happened. They kept him, and you know what? Watching that game, Ben, he could have gone for 500 yards.
Yeah.
They weren't stopping him.
He didn't play the first drive.
Yep.
Right? Maybe the first 2 drives. I know he didn't play the first drive. They let Ford start the game, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
I was so tilted when I saw Ford started that game. That was so bittersweet watching Samaje run all over my Jayhawks.
Yep.
Jordan, who are you most excited to roster in this slate?
I think it's either Trayvon Boykin or Jay Ajayi, but he's really hard to pay up for.
Yeah, he is.
That Fresno defense is just awful, and he is going to torch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's start talking about quarterbacks in this slate. I said earlier to Jordan that I really like Rakeem Cato, just because Devin Johnson is injured. They finally last week, because game flow forced them to, Cato aired it out, and he did what he always did and scored a bunch of touchdowns because he's awesome at it. But Jordan kind of disagreed with me. So tell me why you're going against that, Jordan.
Well, he tore up Western Kentucky last year, who was a much worse defense than Louisiana Tech. And also, your point about Devin Johnson being out. They're just going to throw Stuart Butler into the mix just like they did last week and let him get, 25 carries or so? So I don't think Johnson being out has anything to do with it. I think it's going to be just a normal 22, 25-point Rakeem Cato game.
Ben, what do you think?
I like Rakeem Cato because I tilted the Devin Johnson game last week or whatever.
Well, it's not. You shouldn't have played him anyways because there was a running back against EMU in the slate who didn't even end up having a good game.
Hey, guess what? If Devin Johnson would have had the game that Stuart Butler did, you wouldn't be saying that. You'd be saying Devin Johnson was the man because Devin Johnson should have had those stats.
Ben, process over results, fella.
The process was there. Devin Johnson has been a great back all year. He had a good matchup against the bad run defense, and he would have done exactly what Butler did if he had gotten the chance.
Yeah.
But what people might miss in that game is while on the surface it looks like Cato. Or it looks like, Devin Johnson went down, and so Cato had to throw the ball. That's not the case. It started with, 3 drives of Cato, no Devin Johnson before he even got hurt. He got hurt on, his 3rd carry, which was, the 4th drive. It was, insane the amount of work they were doing with Cato. And somebody pointed out on Twitter or whatever, I was debating with them, and they pointed this out, which I had the sneaky feeling that they're trying to get Cato the stats. In addition to getting that win, they wound up losing the game, so it backfired on them.
If they would have won that game, I'd buy the argument that they gunned for him for the Heisman, but he has no chance now.
No, he has no chance now, but it's still.
I don't think he ever did.
I still think they're going to be letting him rack up the stats, especially with Devontae Allen back, which I had no idea that guy was back. I hate Marshall. I hate them so much because of the way they report, the way they don't report. All this little misinformation that surrounds the program. If I'd have known Devontae Allen was playing last week against Western Kentucky, that's a no-brainer play. And nobody knew that was even happening.
Well, remember, the report was that he was back the week before, and he had that really nice price tag on DraftKings, and we played him, and he didn't play.
Yeah, it's a joke.
That was tilting. I don't think I'm going to end up rostering Boykin at all tomorrow. Well, in GPPs, obviously, but it doesn't seem like the right slate, TBH, because I think they're
quarterback that has a true elite matchup against a bad defense.
But he's priced like it though is the problem, and there are other players in this slate worth paying up for.
Are there other quarterbacks with who's your top quarterback then?
Yeah, I think that's a good question.
I think that on DraftKings, Waters looks like he has a really nice price, and then on FanDuel. Talk me out of Justin Thomas, Ben.
I'm not gonna talk you out of him. I think he has an interesting matchup. I don't think it's necessarily a cash game play, but if you're wanting to roster a little bit more expensive running backs, he's a good play.
You know I love the running quarterbacks. I'm like the Keenan Reynolds fanboy. I'm always all over Keenan Reynolds.
They play Greg Ward.
Greg Ward. Who do they play?
They play Cincinnati.
In
I'm
Cincinnati.
all over that matchup.
Ben is the foremost authority on Greg Ward fandom.
I am, and did you notice he's not in the ranks?
They
I
never
did.
puts
I'm
Greg
looking
Ward
at your
in
ranks
there.
right now, which is why I did.
You're a liar, Jordan. He's been in like every single rank since he's been.
No, he was in there like when he was a wide receiver, and then like a week after that, and maybe once since then.
How many weeks has that been? It's like three of the.
It's been like 5 weeks, Jordan.
Yeah, it's like 3 of the 5 weeks. I can't rank him every freaking week, Jordan.
What? It's been
The matchups aren't always there, big boy.
Who is
I mean, he hasn't had a bad matchup yet since he came in.
starting at quarterback for UConn, Ben?
Whitmer.
Tim Boyle, probably.
Tim Boyle. No, Whitmer is hurt, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, they'll have Whitmer. Whitmer's out. It's a Tim Boyle show. He's the guy for the future.
Sucks.
What about Deshaun Fox? Are we ever gonna get Deshaun Fox, the quarterback?
No, you're not gonna. Not with Tim Boyle under center. You might have gotten it when they were struggling with Whitmer, but this is a senior game. They're gonna let Fox get the ball. Probably they might even let him run up some as a quarterback, but you're just hoping there that he gets those touches because he's a senior. That'd be the only thing you would, because this game is a matchup between two just really crappy football teams. So it's hard to gauge anything other than I do like Jeremy Davis, and I like some cheap players on UConn as well. Don't get me wrong, but I think if you're going to go Tim Boyle, man, whew, that's a risky play, to say the least.
But I mean, we played Quentin Flowers.
Yeah, it's a better than Quentin Flowers play. Nobody can be as bad as Quentin Flowers was. Tim Boyle's at least going to throw a touchdown.
The process of playing Quentin Flowers is a lot better than thinking.
How bad do you have to be to get benched to get against SMU? Like legitimately, you gotta be a bottom 10% talent in college football to get benched against SMU.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, I mean they put him back on the bench. He hasn't been back off of it really, except for like he came in for like a half since then, and he did a little bit better than that. But yeah, that's not something you want to mess around with.
Okay,
Couldn't do any worse.
Quarterbacks that are in play for cash games. Boykin, I think Cato. Who else do you think is in play for cash games, Jordan?
Like I said, I like Greg Ward. I think Jake Waters is an okay play. Bryce Petty. That over/under in that game is one of the higher ones.
Petty, I'm done. I'm done with him, man.
I think
Their ground game is just so good that even when he gets you to the fantasy totals you want, it's not fun. You're sweating it. You're sweating it every step of the way.
I think Matt Davis might be a better bet to run better than even Greg Ward this week.
Really?
Yeah, he has better more consistent rushing totals over his starts than Greg Ward does. But he doesn't quite have the passing numbers. And UConn, you don't know how this game is going to play out. It is a home game for UConn, but I think he's got a sneaky play. But I actually think Mason Rudolph for Oklahoma State should get the start. It's not quite confirmed because they're playing but they burned his red shirt. He should get the start for Oklahoma State. He played well last week against Baylor. I think he's a very sneaky cash game play if you're wanting to spend up for running backs or wide receiver.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good little transition then. Let's talk about running backs. Do you think that it's worth paying up for Ajayi against Fresno State, Ben?
Oh yeah, I would rather you pay up for Ajayi than pay up for Boykin. Personally, I think that he's that consistent and that great that it's almost worth it. Because you look at a guy like Melvin Gordon or even Samaj Piran, you got guys. These guys have not ideal matchups. I mean, they're good matchups. Like Piran has a good matchup, but it's not perfect. And Ajayi has
matchup doesn't matter to Piran, man.
Ajayi has a perfect matchup and a crazy consistent track record over the last 7 games.
If he doesn't go for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns, I'll be really disappointed.
It's been pretty much his base, hasn't it?
That has to be his floor this week.
I cannot imagine paying an extra $1,000 or $900 on DraftKings for Ajayi over Piran or $800.
He's had at least 2 touchdowns in all but one all but 2 games this year, and those were 2 of the first 3 in the season.
Yeah, what do you think about Martez Waller on the opposite side of that game, Ben? I see that you ranked him here, but Boise State is going to win this game by a lot, but how much does that matter?
I think it matters. If Boise gets out early, it matters. If Boise, keeps their defense keeps Fresno in the game, which I think it will, you should get enough points out of Waller for him to get value because he's a lot cheaper than some of these other guys up here at this top price tag, and he's been consistently good, like 4 or 5 out of his last 6.
Yeah, well,
he's shown ability to catch passes out of the backfield, so I wouldn't completely write that off either, even if they get behind.
Yeah, and you were really high on Brian Hill against this Boise State defense.
Yeah, he scored 2 touchdowns, wound up getting like 100 yards total, which was okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Ben was just like, and Jordan was just like, nah, wave.
It didn't have as good a game as I think I had hoped and that I had wanted him to have when I originally ranked him because he was so pricey, but he still wound up, salvaging himself.
Yeah. Let's talk about Aaron Green against Iowa State. He's been awesome, basically, and Iowa State. I mean, anyone who watched the Texas Tech Iowa State game knows how bad truly Iowa State is on defense. If they were just giving up those chunk plays to Texas Tech. Not only through the air either. They were letting the Texas Tech run game go off on them. That's how bad it was. So I think, Aaron Green, especially for 6,300 on DraftKings, that's super reasonable for him.
I can get with that.
I think his tag on FanDuel isn't bad either for 7,500.
Mm-hmm.
Are you okay? So for the money, would you like Aaron Green or Martez Waller, Jordan? They're basically the same price on both sites.
That's tough. I think I'd go Aaron Green.
Yeah, I go Green too. I mean,
if Catalan is for sure out because he's not guaranteed out yet. He's not expected, but you never know.
Okay, Ben, what about you?
Gosh, that's really hard for me because I know I have Waller higher on the rankings, but if you're rostering Boykin, then I would rather have Waller for sure. I just don't see the reason in cannibalizing your touchdowns. But I don't know. I'm kind of leaning Green when it comes to just straight cash game play.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, the number one play of the week, if we get any sort of confirmation that Devin Johnson is not going to play, Stuart Butler has to be the best play at running back, right?
He's up there.
I mean,
I wouldn't say the best play of the week. He's
against Louisiana Tech.
That defense is not that bad.
Yeah. You leave it to Jordan. He's being the midweek guy. He has to kind of learn these crappy type defenses, and Louisiana Tech has performed really well this year defensively.
That's a much better team than people think they are.
So then why aren't we just going all in on the Catos then? Let Cato throw 8 touchdowns.
That's why I like Cato a little bit, because I think that they might try to attack more through the air, but I think Butler at his price is just a crazy good deal. Mm-hmm. I think all those mid-tier guys are good that I ranked as good options. We talked about Dalvin Cook, but I like Farrow as well.
Yeah, Farrow, man. Houston is a real team with Greg Ward at the quarterback. They can get first downs and score. Like, who knew? They
could actually win the conference, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I have to look that up.
How bad is John O'Corn, man? How terrible.
He's terrible.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, he ruined Greenberry's season and his confidence and everything.
The other guy last year that they had.
Yeah, because I remember there was someone on Houston that we used at quarterback a couple times.
It was something white that I don't remember at all. But then I played him one day, and all of a sudden it's like, nope, John O'Corn's gonna play this game after like the first drive.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's awesome.
Okay. Cool. I think looking at Ben at your write-up, a lot of the value is going to be at the mid-tier running backs.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah. So this Jaylen Marshall fella for Ohio State, what's going on with him, man? Who is this guy? This is the guy that caught 3 touchdowns, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, he's caught 3 touchdowns as soon as like 2 games ago. He was, as Ohio State 241 pointed out, was recruited by Tennessee to be a quarterback. So he has that skill. They have him as Plan C, which, they're on Plan B with Cardale Jones. So they've said that, I mean, these are all different reports. 10 to 15 touches, or 10 to 15 snaps under center is what we can kind of hope for. If I could expect that, I would like him a lot more. But I just don't trust reports like that when you're reading them on Twitter.
Does Urban Meyer have a history of doing that? I know, he used to bring in Tebow in the
early.
Yeah, he would bring him in for Chris Leak to do the goal line stuff.
Yeah, and this guy's a little bit more of a runner, more like a Barrett or he's not built like Braxton Miller, but he's going to be a little bit more of a speedy back than Tebow was. But this Cardale Jones guy, he's big, and they say he can run, but the fact that they're talking about Jaylen Marshall getting reps under center makes me think that he doesn't have that ability. Okay. But I don't know. I haven't really seen much of Cardale Jones personally.
All right.
It's a good Wisconsin defense too, so you can't take that out of the equation either. I mean, you hope Marshall is able to get all these points, but when you factor in it's Wisconsin, we don't know the touches. He's a big risk, but he's a cool GPP play, and he's a fun one. You talked about fun. You're talking about a fun player to throw in there. If he gets snaps under center, he takes over as center or as a quarterback in that game. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that would be a fun one to have.
Okay. Let's go to wide receiver. I'll definitely tell you that I will not be paying for Rashad Green. You can hang out on that island by yourself.
I'm right there with you, Davis.
I joked about it when I put it up there. I knew that was going to be a hated pick, but I
don't think it's hated. He still sees a ton of targets, and he's a very talented player.
It's cheap.
But this is the game that it feels like the magic runs out for Florida State, right? Like this feels like the game.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think the magic shows back up, to be honest.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
They're done. It's
Jordan
all over.
hates Florida State for some reason.
So much.
I have no opinion because my team lost to Kansas State and just decided that they were going to throw away all the talent they have on the team.
I can't wait to watch Florida State lose. I have an irrational hatred towards them. Don't know why. Just hate them.
Yeah, that is weird, man. You don't even have a Florida connection.
I can't explain it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Amari Cooper, because that dude is just redonkulous. I really would like to play him this week in a game that they have to win. And another thing is, they have to win these games convincingly, because there are going to be teams with losses who can make the playoffs. So if Alabama loses, all these teams have blemishes pretty much, so they need to be winning these games convincingly. So I really like Amari Cooper. What do you? I would say that he's. I mean, this is not really going out on a limb, but the wide receiver who is in the higher range of guys that you try the most to force in.
Tyler Lockett. I'd rather have
Lockett. Okay.
I'd rather have Lockett over Cooper.
Yeah, not me.
I would. He's been a lot more consistent. I think Cooper obviously has more upside, but I think Lockett has a higher floor. The over/under on that game is a lot higher. And he's a little bit cheaper, not a lot, but
he's practically the same price I see, but
he's $200 cheaper on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's no difference.
That's $200 different.
Give me Amari Cooper head to head with Tyler Lockett any day of the week.
This is a bad take. This is a bad take.
No, I understand his take, though. He is seeing it from a Vegas side. They're playing Baylor. Baylor gives up yards. Jake Waters is a better quarterback than maybe Blake Sims.
I don't know about that.
You think Blake Sims is better?
About equal.
Blake Sims is like an NFL prospect. Like, some team will draft him. Waters is not.
Did I rank Blake Sims? I know I was thinking about I did. I did want to bring him. I just think he can feed the ball to Cooper, and that's what he's just doing now. He's just saying, forget everybody else, and let throw the ball up to Cooper and let him burn you, and he's going to score 2-3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
200 yards.
I will say that my favorite wide receiver play is probably Doxson against Iowa State. Or do we have some confirmation that he's fully healthy?
I mean, he
went last week.
100 yards and a touchdown last week. And I think, I pointed this out in the article, I think there's a definite correlation to Deontay Gray to Doxson being better. You know what I'm saying? Like, when he has that other receiver there to kind of take a little bit of the focus off, that's when Doxson shines better.
That makes sense.
Gray was out during those couple bad games that Doxson had in between all the good ones he's had.
Okay. All right.
Deontay Gray might be just as good of a player as Doxson.
Oh, yeah.
He's more volatile, but he might outscore Dawson by 15 points.
I think this mid-tier is focused, like when I was doing the rankings, I saw specific guys popping up for DraftKings and then a different set of guys popping up for FanDuel. Seems like the prices on this middle tier of wide receivers is off. Like you have guys like Trent Taylor, who's significantly cheaper on FanDuel but more expensive on DraftKings, but you have a guy like Doxson who's super cheap on DraftKings but super expensive on FanDuel.
Who is the LA Tech QB? He's throwing 8 touchdowns this week.
Sokol.
Oh, it's this team. I get all the Techs and the states mixed up. Cody Stokol for sure. 8 touchdowns this week. Lock that up. That's happening.
Against Marshall?
If Western Kentucky can do it, Louisiana
Kentucky can do it. Louisiana Tech can do it.
Gosh, guys, you can't look at this defense in a vacuum. I think.
They cannot call themselves the no-fly zone anymore.
And I think a lot of that was inflated by playing terrible teams because they didn't play a single good team all year long.
Yeah, but they played some decent offenses. I mean, MTSU has a good offense. UAB has had moments.
No, stop. UAB has had moments of getting their program shut.
I mean, Western Kentucky is far and away the best offense that that Marshall team has faced. Like,
Louisiana Tech's a different offense than Western Kentucky.
It's not gonna go out and score 80 points.
Although it scored
points or whatever.
It scored 76 last week
against Rice. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like Jalen Fitzpatrick's price tag on DraftKings. He's like crazy consistent. I mean, if he gets a good game out of his quarterback, he'll have 120 yards and a touchdown. I noticed that you put the same thing in your write-up, Ben.
What happened to P.J. Walker?
Dude, he was amazing last year.
He was so amazing. Like, to end the year, we were like, oh, I can't wait to get P.J. Walker next year. Guy's going to be a year older, better. Dude's been straight garbage since the second game of the season. Like, they beat Vanderbilt, and then they just set their whole season on fire. So, and Fitzpatrick's, all these receivers are directly related, they correlate with their quarterback situation. So if the quarterback situation's a hot mess, then so are they. But, whatever.
If you look at it, other than Houston and East Carolina, they've played pretty tough defenses. Like, Temple's a good defense, Penn State's a great defense, Central Florida's not a bad defense at all. And those are the teams that really struggled against. Memphis is not bad. And there's no reason for not just picking East Carolina and Cincinnati apart.
Mm-hmm.
But I think P.J. Walker has some upside this week.
I do, but I also can't say that he has more upside than Jeremy Davis, who is the only legitimate receiving option that his team has against SMU.
Yep. I am going to be fitting Jeremy Davis into most of my FanDuel lineups. I would just go ahead and say that. Yeah, him and Darren Waller make for interesting punt plays. You can do this, I'm not giving away one of my teams, but you can do Boykin, Ajayi, Dalvin Cook, and some fun things with your cheap wide receivers and do a team.
Ben, you just gave away your team.
I did. I totally just did.
So somebody run that, and whatever GPP is on FanDuel tomorrow, take Ben's money.
Well, I haven't settled on it yet, so
yeah.
You take it, you win money, buy me something.
Yeah, Darren Waller, if he fills in for the Smelter role, that's valuable, but I hate taking the Georgia Tech wide receivers. It would have been interesting to do it back when, Demarius and Stephen Hill were there. I wasn't playing college football daily fantasy then, and I know people are going to roll their eyes at Stephen Hill, but he was really good there. Just to see, because, when you look at the stats retrospectively, they look good because they come in bunches. Yeah, and Calvin. But it would have been interesting to play them in daily fantasy and see how consistent or inconsistent they were in college. But, I just don't have that memory.
I remember, because I'm a Georgia fan, so we always had to deal with Georgia Tech. And, I remember distinctly their offense and stuff. And that one wide receiver just seemed to always be a thorn in the side. And that's been the case they only can feature one. And they get 3 big catches a game. And you just kind of pray that one of them goes for a touchdown. That's all you're hoping for with Waller. If you're paying min price, that's fine. Isn't that what we look for in all these min price plays? Is just hope he gets 3 or 4 catches and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay, that's probably enough. Is that enough wide receiver talk? Is there anyone else you guys want to mention?
You got to ask Jordan. I pointed some guys out. I had to trim this list. It's really hard to write up a slate this small and still kind of. There's a lot of good options. I thought that I had to cut, which was it's tough to do. So I'll let Jordan. You pick a guy that I may have had to cut, or you saw that you liked.
I don't know if you ever had Josh Harper in your rankings, but I think he's a great play against Boise.
I don't know.
Get down early, they're gonna. Harper's a good receiver.
He is, but those guys are just so dependent on their quarterback play, and like against those good teams, yeah, you trail.
Defense, though.
But sometimes it just gets destroyed, that happens.
I also think Thomas Spurbeck, Ben does have him in his write-up. They disrespect him by pricing him on FanDuel every single week. He's still under 6K.
Yeah, why do you think they do that? I don't quite understand why he's so underpriced compared to everybody else.
You look at his last game logs. 15, he had a bad game against Wyoming, and then 17, 21, 24. No reason for him to be 5,600.
Yeah, I never got that either. He just seems to be always in my write-ups just because they keep underpricing him.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as he keeps staying this price, it's hard for me to construct lineups without him.
Yeah. I think an interesting play that would fly way under the radar for people, excuse me, I'm still not over this cough, Levi Norwood for Baylor.
Really?
Has 2 straight games of 5 catches and 40-plus yards for Baylor. He's pretty much a men's salary play.
Yeah.
So a sneaky, getting more action type guy definitely has some upside on FanDuel. And DraftKings for that matter, probably.
Every Antoine Goodley write-up forever is he's so good, he's underpriced, you got to use him, and then he just,
Yeah, and I'm sorry, guys. I did that when I wrote him up this time. I felt that same way. It's like disgusting putting him in the write-up.
I felt the same way about him the last 4 weeks, and he won't do it.
I just played Corey Coleman last week. I just bit the bullet and played Corey Coleman.
Which he's 8,100 on DraftKings. I think that's almost doable if you want to do that route.
I think you should just play Cooper instead.
What about Goodley at 5,200, man? Gosh.
It's hard to say no to that. I
think that's a really good price for him because he's not gonna completely do nothing. He had
3 yards for a majority of that game last week, and didn't he have a rushing touchdown, like a rushing one, Ben?
He had a touchdown. I don't know if he rushed.
He got 2 passes for 25 yards and a touchdown.
Took
1 carry for 3 yards.
Yeah, and that 3-yard carry was like a majority of his stats for a good portion of that game. You were close to getting boned.
Close.
I don't know.
No, I'm with you, man. He makes me sick.
This is also his last game of his college career.
It really is. It's his last regular season.
Yeah, true. Okay.
Home game.
Last home game. There you go.
There you go.
There's the narrative.
I always. That's my write-ups. That's half my write-ups is finding those little, his last home game against a Western team on Saturday.
Amir Abdullah stayed in the game last week with an injury because it was his last home game. He would have left with that injury. He had a knee injury coming in, and then he got a rib injury in the first quarter, and he only stayed in because it was his last home game ever.
What about Melvin Gordon? While we're just kind of talking about random plays, would you be willing to do a Melvin Gordon play?
Not in cash. I know that sounds so dumb because it's Melvin Gordon, but I feel like he's unnecessary in cash games this week.
What about Ezekiel Elliott? Same game. They might lean on him more.
Probably not going to play anyone from that game.
Yeah, who knows how good Ezekiel Elliott really is? Like, a lot of his production could be related to the fact that he is a really good running quarterback. You see that in the NFL all the time. Teams with running quarterbacks end up having really good performance out of their running backs. So I would be a little bit worried about using Elliott in cash.
Yeah. I'm just curious to see, some of these plays. I find myself, I'm going to completely fade the Temple-Tulane game probably, and I feel like that's really dumb.
It's not a hard game to fade at all.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's dumb.
Tulane is the Nick Montana team, right?
Yes, they have Nick Montana. He's not their starter, though. But
I'm rostering Nick Montana because I don't care.
Good job.
Yep,
You're the man. You are.
I am the man. Thank you, Ben. I don't know why it's taking you so long to admit that.
Oh, you're going to cut that? We're going to cut that and put that on the promo tape?
We're gonna put that on the tape after for the promo video for our EPL challenge.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah. All right. Before we give some EPL hot takes and tell the people about our thing, tight ends. Favorite tight end, regardless of cost, Ben.
Oh, Jake Rowe.
Jordan, favorite tight end, regardless of cost.
But I factor cost though.
I want to say Jake Rowe. I also want to say Eric Thronaffle because he seems to be back.
Yep, I think Franfeld would be the guy that I would choose because Deontay McManus doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and he's gone now that Devontae Allen's back. That's been the whole MO with using McManus was Allen's out, use McManus. So.
Yep. Okay, all right. Other tight ends that you are considering, Ben?
I don't think I'm going to have anybody other than maybe an Olsen. I might have an Olsen team, Chad Olsen from Fresno, just as a filler on DraftKings, but I'm going to be more Rowe than anything, I guarantee that. And then maybe if I'm feeling frisky, I might go with Heuerman from Ohio State.
That's what I was thinking. I think I'm feeling frisky. I'm gonna use your old what's the narrative street for the senior day? Is he's gonna be graduated, right?
Oh, he's gonna be drafted. He's gone, dude. He's like the top tight end prospect.
Really?
So yeah, even though he's done nothing this year, they love him. Everything I read is.
I'm out on NFL draft stuff right now. I'll be catching up on it soon, but that wouldn't surprise me. I don't think there's really. Jermaine Mundine doesn't exist, Jordan.
He exists. He's a great thing.
Well, you know this, Davis. When you have a young quarterback or a quarterback just taking over the job, they tend to feature tight ends. Look at Colt McCoy last week.
Well, that's research shows that's not true in the NFL. It might be true in college.
Oh, really? Interesting. So why did Colt McCoy target Jordan Reed so much last week?
Because Deshaun Jackson was out and Jordan Reed's the best player on their team.
Okay.
But you can always find like one case where it's true, but just in general, research shows that's not. The progression stays the same as from the other quarterback, the wide receiver 1, the wide receiver 2, then the tight end.
But see, with Ohio State, you don't really have those straight roles with their wide receivers. I mean, you have like Devin Smith, you have, Noah Spencer, and you have like there's nobody that's like the guy.
That wide receiver situation is annoying.
It very much is. It always has been. It was last year too.
Give me the Franfells, bro. I'm just doing the Franfell.
You gonna pay that much?
Why not, man? Give me the Fronos. I know that he can give me 100 yards and a touchdown if Cato so desires.
I was just messing around putting a lineup together with on DraftKings with Farrow, Cook, and Butler and Boykin. It gets a little hairy in the wide receivers if you do that, just so you know.
Yeah, I bet that it does. I haven't sat down to construct lineups yet. I'll do that in the morning after soccer's over. Or after soccer locks, at least. Okay, any other plays either one of you wants to give out? I haven't seen any questions on Twitter or anything. TBH, I don't have the chat pulled up.
I have chat in this.
I know most people just come back and watch this show on YouTube anyways. TBH.
Yeah, I hope they enjoy it.
I hope that they do too, because
we kept it short this week.
We did this for them. We didn't do it because we wanted to. We hate this. We hate our lives right now.
So much.
It is a Friday night at 10 o'clock. I had to leave my party early. I was like, hey, I got to go home and get on webcam so a bunch of dudes can listen to me talk. I know you guys are having a good time, but I got to go.
I just tell people I'm on TV.
You will be. Questions. Hey, man, we will be one day. That is
Jordan almost has 1,100 Twitter followers, you guys.
Yeah.
I can't believe he has 1,100, man. It took me forever to get to 1,900. No offense, Jordan.
Wait, you have 1,900, Ben?
I only have 1,900.
I figured you'd have a lot more than that.
Yeah, I figured that too.
I only had like 500, not even 500 when I started at FI. I had maybe 400.
Yeah, I had like 60.
Ben, you got EPL hot takes, fella?
Nope.
Okay, so the reason that Ben doesn't have, well, I don't need it from Ben. The reason that Ben doesn't want to give hot takes is that I don't know if any of you have noticed us talking on Twitter about it, but Ben and I, well, when DraftKings first introduced soccer, I was like, oh, cool, a new sport. I'll try this out. And it was really fun. And I've had a good little run of finishes in soccer. And so I think that I'm better than Ben. And Ben, of course, being the prideful man that he is, says no way. So we're going to be doing a best-of-5 challenge in Premier League on DraftKings. And are we going to do Champions League at all, or you just can't get free for it?
No, when's is Champions League next week?
I haven't even looked at the schedule.
Yeah, see, I hope it's not next week. If it's the week after, I'll be off on a Wednesday when we can do a Champions League day that day.
Okay, fella. All right. Well, I don't know if you want that. I don't know if you want these problems.
Oh, I got it, man. Trust me.
All right, be honest, man. Are you sweating it a little bit? Like you definitely never thought I was going to end up being good at it, did you?
Well, I think you have the resources at your disposal that I do. And you have enough knowledge at this point where you can compete with me when it comes to just your knowledge base. And so with your resources and your knowledge base, you're competing. We're on the same level playing field. So
what Ben is saying right now is that he thinks that I get my plays from other people.
No. I'm saying to go to who scored, to look at the right way to look at rosters, and the difference between using center backs and using wings on your defense. And
yeah, I had no idea about any of that.
Not using defensive midfielders and things like that I feel like I've almost educated you to the point where you're better than me because you're better at lineup construction. I would say that you do have the edge there because I don't think when it comes to, I think more how do I put it, abstractly than you do. I think you're more focused.
You're an artist, Ben, and I'm more of a calculator.
Yeah. I think that's a fair way to look at it. The way I draw my teams is more like a artist, like a brush strokes, and you're just sitting there and you can just put it together more.
I was talking to my
girlfriend. Basically an art major, so that's just a weird.
Yeah, I am. No, I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and I told her that I think that when it comes to sports, I'm like autistic. Like I view sports so much differently than everything else in my life, and I feel really like my brain is in this weird space about it. So I don't know. Maybe there's something fundamentally wrong with me, Benjamin.
I think we all kind of tick like that. If you look at all of the daily fantasy people that are good or that have had success, I mean, I'm not saying I'm good, but all of us in the community that have had enough success that people recognize us as good, that we all have this like weird way of looking at sports and making lineups. I mean, look at Napster Man, dude. That guy, there's nobody that looks at building a lineup the way that guy does, and he's been successful.
Oh yeah, dude. Nap is on like another level, dude. He in the Bales book, I'll never ever forget it. He was talking about taking quarterbacks for GPPs, and he said that he wants a synergistic energy between the quarterbacks to be existing, where they're just competing against each other. And I was like, I would never think about that, man. But that's like a brilliant way to construct tournament rosters.
Yeah. That's deep. Should we be?
Wow.
Yeah. All right. That's probably good. It's probably enough for tonight. I'll give some EPL hot takes. I don't think just the Everton wingbacks, Leighton Baines and Seamus Coleman, are a little bit of a trap play tomorrow. I think. I don't not think that this is the right slate to pay up
against Manchester City.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why. Like, I know you say that that's like a hot take, but people keep taking Leighton Baines no matter who they're playing.
I'll take him when they're playing teams like Hull. But
no, he was a super donk play against Hull. They've played 5 games in 15 days now, and Howard has been a wreck. He was just drawing dead at a clean sheet. You can't pay $6K for a defender who's not going to get the clean sheet.
You can for Leighton Baines. He's different.
See, there you go. There's us thinking differently about lineup construction already.
Yeah, I mean, I will pay up for Leighton Baines, especially on a slate where I felt like I had enough cheap plays at other places that I could easily afford him. I think that makes a difference.
Everton wanted the 3 points, but Hull played a super defensive formation that did not really suit Baines' game. IMO. Okay, that's probably enough. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the College Football Daily Fantasy Show on fantasyinsiders.com. Find us on Twitter if you have any questions tomorrow morning. I'm at Davis Maddock. Ben is at Natural Slugger. Jordan is at the Jordan Case. And we'll be happy to help answer anything that we missed tonight. Later.
See you.
Have a good one.